Should you keep trying to shape a wobbly pot? Watch me as I try. Discover when and maybe why it starts to go wrong. Stick around to see it come to life. I'm going to start this right at the very beginning. This is me centering the clay. The first thing I do, as you can see here, is I'm stacking 3 balls of clay on top of each other. This is a technique I show my students so that when they can't handle wedging 10 pounds of clay or 8 pounds of clay or whatever, that they can break it down into smaller chunks, more manageable pieces, and then they can just put it one piece at a time on the wheel and then slap centering. While it's sitting there spinning slowly, you slap the sides until it gets to where it's in the middle. This makes the first cone up a lot easier. I once had someone ask me why I would cone my clay up so high. The simple answer is that clay at the very top is easy for me to control. I can push it all the way, all around. I can push it off center and I can push it right back on center. So by raising it really high in the air, it makes it easier for me when I'm pushing it down to keep everything in the middle, keep everything centered. I'm going to do this. Now typically I cone up and I cone down 3 or 4 times. You're going to see that I kind of take a shortcut and I only do it twice. This may be the origins of the wobble. The more you get that clay centered at the beginning, the better foundation you have for the rest of the pot. I'm getting ready. I'm putting the hole in the middle right here. This is where I'm going to go down. You're going to see me take a needle tool and I'm going to use that as a measuring device. I'm probably looking for it right now. I'm going to use that as a measuring device for the bottom to see how thick it is. That first time I realized that it's way too thick and I want to go down till I'm about 1/4 inch. I don't want it to be a 1/2 inch thick. I want 1/4 inch. I don't want a real thick foot on this. I just want a little one. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to measure one more time. Pressing the inside, making sure it's nice and even. You want to finish the interior before you move on to the exterior. I'm going to try one more time. How thick is it? Yeah, that looks good. So let's compress that one more time. Get rid of the hole that I made. Get ready to pull the wall. Here we are. Brace yourself. I'm going to use a knuckle pull on my first pull. That's because I'm moving so much clay. I'm lifting so much clay at the very beginning. So by using my knuckle, it allows my fist to be up against the pot rather than my fingers. My fist has more stability and more durability to it than my fingers. My fingers can flex, they can move, they can wiggle. And so I often do the first with a big amount of clay. I often do a knuckle pull for several pulls. One of the tricks to making a tall pot is to throw it upward and inward. So you can see that this is looking more like a volcano than a bowl. This is done on purpose. The centrifugal force of that wheel spinning wants to throw that clay outward. By throwing it inward, it allows it to have more stability. Right now everything looks like it's going great. Everything looks centered. It's just spinning nicely. Everything looks great. So I'm feeling very confident that this is going to be an exceptional pot. You can see right there, something happened. I don't know what it was, a little too much pressure in one spot, but all of a sudden the top starts to wobble just a little bit. And the interesting thing about wobbles like that is that sometimes you can get rid of them with the next pull. Sometimes they just get worse. The trick is to just keep moving forward. The trick is to keep trying and keep pushing it in and see what you can do with it. You're going to see it get worse and worse here. Look at the top of that. It's just wah, 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 wah. You see somewhere in the middle, there's a little twist that's going around. That doesn't help at all. That little twist is due to all the pressure that I was putting on that pole. So I probably could have done 2 more pulls. One of the tricks on making large pots and making the walls even and thin is to minimize the amount of pulls you make. So far it's been about 7 minutes in, and I've done 4 pulls, but in 7 minutes that clay is not saturated with all the water. In those 7 minutes, it's just it's still got quite a bit of firmness to it. So I'm gonna let you guys watch this now and just see how I try to shape that, and every time I try to shape it up, that wobble becomes a little more defined and a little bit more defined, and it just is in there. It's ingrained in the clay's memory at this point, and there's really like nothing I can do about it other than just work with it. I can keep pressing, I can keep shaping, I can keep trying to get that out, but wow, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And eventually I just slow the wheel down, scrape it a little bit with my hands, and form that top. And that top I'm going to form as perfectly centered as possible. So I'm going to really try to make the top of that stay where it needs to be, that it needs to be centered. This is going to help the whole thing look like it was deliberate, look like it was important. When you see at the end, you'll see at the end that as it's not spinning anymore at the end, it doesn't even look like it's really got a big wobble in it. But you and I know the truth. We know it's there. And one of the things that this does is it just makes you try to work with what you're given, you know. Sometimes the clay gives you perfection, and sometimes it gives you a little wobble to work with, and you just have to keep pressing on and trying your best to work with what you've got. One thing you can do that will always help is take your needle tool and trim off the top of the pot. What this does is it makes the top completely even, and it will make it so that when you go and put the lip on it and shape that, it'll make that top completely centered, and it will make that wobble less pronounced, even though it's still there. And so that top is perfectly centered, and it lessens the look of that wobble. The fact of the matter is, this is a handmade piece of pottery. It's gonna have flaws. It's gonna be perfect in its imperfection. That's just the way it's gonna have to be. If someone can see that wobble in it while it's sitting there, can see any of its imperfections, they can just know that this was crafted by hand. Still trying to work that wobble out right there. Not gonna happen. It's still gonna be there. As soon as you stop the wheel, it looks just fine. Okay, this is my big wobbly pot. I'm going to go ahead and trim it finally. The first thing I got to do is center it. Okay, so I'm going to put this way off center so you can see this. As this comes around, you can see from where my finger is standing still, it's going to hit it right there. Now if I push this or tap it away from that, it's going to put it closer to center. Keep doing that, and eventually I'm going to get this thing almost there. Just need a little bit more. And so that's how when people tap center, that's basically what they're doing. They're putting this hand there and they're tapping it up against that one until it gets centered. Okay, now the big thing is you want this area right here, this area to be centered. You don't care about this anymore. It's already was centered on the wheel. You want this. You're going to be trimming this nicely, and so you want that to be nice and centered. I'm going to use some clay wads to hold this down instead of a Giffen grip. And this is I don't know if this is common practice or not, but this is what I do. I just like those to be on there to kind of hold it from doing any quick maneuvers out of center and off the wheel. And so I just use some big old clay wads to hold this down. I'm gonna start by using this tool. This comes in a very typical pottery kit. Now the great thing about trimming pottery is that you can literally, this is the easiest way for it to lose weight. If it's thick down here, we can just sit there and we can just keep trimming and trimming and trimming until it's lost a whole ton of weight. When I first started pottery, I used to do this a lot. It was kind of a way to make it seem like I made really, really good pots, only I wasn't quite skilled enough to thin them all the way out, so I would just trim. Now you can see it's getting a little dry down there. This is because I let it go the whole weekend, and I shouldn't have. Ooh, I got a chunk of something coming around right there. Every now and then you can get reminded that this stuff is just dug out of the ground. There's a twig. I've got a twig stuck in my pot right here. Twig. But from that you can see how thick it was right down here at the bottom. So some trimming will do it some good. Right? There's some people I've seen that trim their whole pots. There's some people that just trim the foot. I do a little bit of both. This is new clay that I was trying out. It's very fine. It tends to act a little bit like porcelain, so you lift it up and it slumps back down on you. You lift it up and it slumps back down. And that slumping is usually just it re-thickening the wall down to the base and just go, because there's just not a whole lot of grog and stuff to keep it lifted. Although it was nice and smooth to throw, I did enjoy that. So advantages of porcelain-like clay, they're nice and smooth. Disadvantages, they're really hard to get super thin. I have to say that's about as good as that's going to get. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this one. to indicate my foot right there. My left hand is sitting on top of this, putting quite a bit of pressure down, just to make sure that if this grips, that the whole thing doesn't fly off, that I have a chance to save it. All right, now I'm going to put the foot, trim out some of the excess clay right down here. It's important to try to remember whether or not you left a lot of clay down here or a very thin amount. If you don't know, I've seen people that have done the tapping method where they can tap it. This right here, it has a higher pitch than this right here. What that means is that this area is thicker than the bottom. So my bottom was not super thick, so I'm going to want to just trim a shallow foot on it, something that makes it so that everyone knows that it was taken care of and loved. There we go. And then I can put my name in it. All right, put your name in it. I'm going to use this tool. It's called a round stick bick. The reason I use that is because the tip of these things is nice and rounded, so it won't leave a very sharp, pointed gouge. It'll leave a nice open gouge, one that I'll be able to read and see later on better. Also, it enables me to pull off the burr a little bit easier. I'll show you this after I'm done. Here is the foot. What? Here is the foot and my name. The pot is now done. It's ready to go up with the rest of them. There it is with the rest of them right there.